bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Namaste. Well, we've reached one of those points again where nobody is really making comments on the topics that we're discussing. And it makes me wonder if maybe I've gotten off into too far into the deep end, you know? Is anybody really getting it? So I'm just going to speak extemporaneously. I'm not going to quote from the suttas or anything like that. Now, I think that is going over people's heads. Correct me if I'm wrong. The Buddha's language is different from the Vedic language. The Buddha's language is negative. He defines nibbana, for example, as the cessation of sankhara. Oh, and of course we explained sankhara in earlier videos, so I'm not going to define it again. Fabrications. And the giving up of all assets, which are also called upadhi. Upadhi, we also did a video on that. Upadhi means blockages, mental blocks, areas of consciousness that are inaccessible. So, if these are difficult for you to understand, then try to understand signlessness. We're all looking for signs. We look at the weather for a sign, whether it's going to be fair or cloudy or rainy or what. We look at people for signs, whether they like us or they don't like us. And it's confusing for most people when we get into the signless, because it's invisible. It just is what it is, and it doesn't create any symbols or signs for us to recognize it. Now, this has always been a problem for me in relating to spiritual people and groups, because they all expect certain signs that one is enlightened or that one is self-realized. And people today, in general, well, it was also true in the Buddha's time. They want something exciting. They want signs that give energy and excitement and pleasure. But when we're talking about signlessness, there are no such signs. One of the signs that people like is accelerating time. What is time? It's just signs. 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, rock. You know, it's just a symbol on a clock face. What is time, really? It's that which separates cause and effect. Apparently separates. You see, all these concepts, these external concepts, belong to the Dvaita-vāda and Vishishta-dvaita-vāda. And from my point of view, which I'm going to identify as kind of the top end of Vivartha-vāda, these are all false. They're dreams, hallucinations. We've made the metaphor of the desert mirage here so many times. And even though I have all kinds of videos planned out and written already in the future, it's becoming more and more difficult for me to pry myself out of the signless, the emptiness, the silence, and deliver these talks, these scripted talks especially. So I'm not giving anymore so many signs. It's not really part of my nature at this point. If I'm not speaking or something like that, I'm not thinking. I'm not thinking even when I am speaking. It's the strangest thing in the beginning, to speak without thinking. But if one follows this path into the signless, that which has no name, no symbols, that which is silent, that which is enough unto itself. It doesn't require a big announcement. It's satisfying. It's so complete that it doesn't need anything else to point to it and say, hey, this is it. So it may be possible, or it may be difficult for those on the external side to try to follow this. I don't know how to put it exactly. Silence is beautiful. Emptiness is beautiful. It's a refuge, a protection from the suffering of duality. Signlessness is beautiful because it is what it is. It doesn't require language and symbols and, big blinking neon signs to announce itself. It just is. Now, I would love to have a dialogue with the viewers about these things. I'd love to be getting good comments from everyone. If you don't understand something, ask a question about it. It's not, how can I say? It's not shameful, because we're brought up in a society, in a culture that wants excitement and stimulation and speed. And to come up with something, efficiency and production and all these other kinds of madness like money, which is nothing but signs and symbols. Or words, certain key words now that people want to hear around spirituality. But all these signs and symbols are different from the things they represent. I would rather have the thing than the symbol. I would rather have the experience than the sign. I would rather have the consciousness than words about the consciousness. See, and you should be like this too. You should be looking at this in the same way. From my point of view, people in the Dvaita-vāda get themselves all agitated and busy with so many activities of rituals and stuff, and prayers, and chasing gurus, and all this stuff. And then they join religious organizations, and they all have a certain mood around them. They're confused because they've got all these people telling them all these conflicting things. It's better to be alone with God in Vivartha-vāda and in love, even though that love is a dream. All positive and negative emotions are simply dreams. And of course, they change when conditions change. They're dependently arisen, like all phenomena. And when conditions change, that changes too. It's non-eternal. But then, up in Vivartha-vāda, you start to realize all this. You start to see how all phenomena are dreamlike in that they have a beginning and an end. They're like the mirage in the desert. They only seem to be real. They appear and then they disappear. So the appearance isn't real and the disappearance isn't real. What's really happening is they're coming into existence, they're arising due to some cause or combination of causes. Then when conditions change and the causes go away, they disappear. They come from nothing and they go into nothing at the end. Why should one become all excited about these things? It's much better to remain calm, free from affect, as in affection, neither to love nor hate, but to send out vibrations of understanding and acceptance and wisdom, detachment, because these are the real refuge. Just like somebody had posted online the other day that they were in this perfect relationship. They had a perfect relationship, but they were apprehensive because in the future, maybe it's going to change and it's not going to be so good anymore. And I wrote back, the Buddha says, everything that has a beginning has an end. And oh, I got so many negative comments from people. Why? It's true. You can get what you want. It happens sometimes. But it's going to change. It's not going to be forever. So don't cling to it. Don't be attached to it. Don't identify with it. Stay at some distance from it. Be detached. That's the real meaning of signlessness. Signlessness. It's not that what happens is a sign about what the future is going to bring. No. All we do is that we identify with these things and then we want them to stick around forever, but they're not going to. So accepting that everything changes, one can move to the higher level of seeing that this is arising now because of whatever causes are behind it. And after some time it's going to change. Either quickly or slowly, doesn't matter. That change is inevitable. So better not to be attached. Better not to be identified. Better not to be clinging. Not to be lusting after things. This is the actual cause of suffering. And when we let go of it, when we just let things be the way they are, and not make up stories about them, not use symbolic language to try to describe them, name them, and then hang on to them. We will be so much happier, because then we are simply in the real. That which is not and cannot be described by signs and symbols and language and names. Name and forms. Name and form is the cause of consciousness. So once we let go of names and forms and signs and symbols, then the consciousness based on them also disappears. And then we can be in our native state. Then we can be in the unconditioned, the unmanifest, the formless, the nameless, the signless. Aum Tat Sat. Aum Shakti Aum.